The Kansas City Royals are coming off of a hot week. They're going to need it as the rest of the AL tries to keep up with them. Can the Royals make the playoffs? What is the context of the last week? We're going to talk about all of that. It's a brand new episode of One World Away.
This is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
And we are back like we never left. Jordan Foote, Joel Penfield here. Nick Springer doing one hell of a job behind the scenes. Josh Kaiser, guys, Josh is okay. To take a page out of the lab playbook for when Craig wasn't there. Josh is at the game, so he is actually legitimately going to be back a week from now. If you're watching live in the comments, like Nate commented about the putting money on the Royals tonight and realize I'm going to lose it all because of the jinx. So let's get this out of the way to start off. 2 orders of business. Actually, first, Joel, how are you doing?
I am surviving. Fun thing, my wife is a teacher. They went back to school last week, which is, good for them. My kids are back in daycare. Problem is that first week to 10 days that everybody's back in school, every single possible virus or sickness starts running through the house. And so it caught up to me. And so I normally, as you guys know, have a glass of bourbon with me or a beer, something of that nature. Tonight it's tea with honey because I have a cough and a sore throat and I need to do this show.
All right. 2 orders of business. Number 1, the KCSN hotline powered by Mint Mobile, 913-407-6524. If you want to jump in and ask any questions, drop comments, drop concerns, chat with Tucker Franklin. I'm just going to reveal the identity of who's behind it as if anyone didn't already know. Again, 913-407-6524, powered by our friends at Mint Mobile. You can jump in on the live chat if you're watching on YouTube, all of that good stuff. Now, the most important part, potentially, of the entire podcast. I crunched the numbers, and I'm getting out ahead of the accusations and the allegations to confirm that they might be true. The Royals have played 11 games on days that we have went live. One of them got postponed. Their record, Joel, we talked before the game. Your guess was spot on. They are 2-8 in games that we go live on Tuesdays. So that's just not great.
It's really testing the curse of them playing the Angels tonight. So we'll really see what's happening here.
Yeah, they had a win on April 23rd, then proceeded to lose 5 in a row before a postponement, then lost another one. Then the curse got broken, and now we are back to 2 in a row, potentially 3 in a row by the time you are listening to this. So, correlation, causation, sample size, all that stuff, that's still a pretty decent stretch of games. It's not like we're picking any random day. Maybe the Royals just aren't a Tuesday club, and that's kind of their thing, right?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, I guess we can take the fall only so often, right?
Yeah, absolutely. They are 5-1 though since the last time we talked. 13-3 loss to Minnesota. That series was a little bit weird, and I think that had they gotten swept, it would have been very, very ugly on Royals Twitter. But luckily, everything after that's been great. The Royals have won 5 in a row coming into Tuesday night's game. Beat Minnesota in the finale, swept Cincinnati, beat Los Angeles, who just isn't good. We know that, but still, you have to beat the teams in front of you. Now playing on Tuesday, kind of getting the flip side of that. Joel, I think that the Cole Reagan start in the finale against Minnesota was really good. We both thought that he was going to deliver, and he did. Michael Lorenzen played very well against Cincinnati. The number 1 game, and I didn't have this on my bingo card whatsoever from the past week, the Dairon Blanco 2 home run, 7 RBI game against Cincinnati on, I guess that would have been Saturday, was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, and one of the most unlikely performances, but for him to be the guy that did it, I thought it was incredible. Like if Bobby went out and had a 3 for 5, 2 homer, 7 RBI game, like sure, I mean that's incredible. It's incredible for anybody, but expected just a hair with a guy like Bobby to do that. But for Dairon in his role that he has as a 4th, 5th outfielder, defensive replacement, pinch hitter, start once a week, once every 10 days, to have that moment was really cool. And for everyone to kind of rally around the yellow crayon bat And then he did it again on Sunday with another 2-hit game and a home run. Really, really cool moment for him, and a guy that that team loves, and you could tell, and you could tell how happy they were for him that he was able to have that moment. So that was awesome. My biggest takeaway was, and it kind of goes into my weekly takeaway, I'll expand on it more, just how resilient this team is. You get blasted 13-3, and you go out and you pretty much dominate a game like they did on that Wednesday day game. Just like we talked about all year, this team does a great job of turning the page and just, all right, scrap it. We got a new game tomorrow. And then you go to Cincinnati, and they flat dominated that series. It was the most impressive series they've had wire to wire this year. I know that sometimes the Reds are not, like, they're not great, but they're not a bad team either. They're right around 500. And if the Royals had lost 2 or 3, they would be 500, and we'd be sitting there going, man, they just can't beat teams that are even remotely good. But instead, they go in and just beat the shit out of them outscored them 28-3 in that series. Unbelievable stuff. And it was also on the road, which is where this team has struggled at times. And now the Royals have a winning record on the road. They're 31-30. So they're finding ways they're learning how to win, continuing to learn how to win. And it's fleshed out now. They're 15 over. And we're really staring down the barrel of the playoffs being a legitimate possibility, and not just, hey, it'd be cool if they got in. Like, we're in much more serious territory with it right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Josh kind of dropped that as one of his nuggets for us to talk about coming into the game. I'm getting a little bit out of order, but it's a perfect segue. Going into Monday night, according to Baseball Reference, the Royals had an 81.2% chance to make the playoffs, went up to 89.2% after Monday night. Fangraphs went up 6%. ESPN went up 9%. The Royals that helped a lot, man. 15 games above 500, nice round number. They're 4.5 up on the next closest wild card team.
Cody Tapp tweeted it. The Royals are closer to the best record in baseball than they are falling out of a playoff spot, right?
Yeah. Yep. And of course, all of that can change. Like 1 week later, if they lost, 4 in a row, we'd have a different conversation, stuff like that. But when you break it down into these 10 game stretches, and on MLB.com, it says, oh, what's this team their last 10? Kind of gives you a brief snapshot of how they're doing. 4.5 up on Boston, who's 4-6 in their last 10, 6.5 up on Seattle, who's 4-6 in their last 10, 7.5 up on Tampa Bay. And we talked about Tampa Bay and Detroit as teams that probably aren't going to do anything. And now Tampa Bay trending to the Detroit category where they need a miracle and then some. Now they're 500 coming into Tuesday, so they're not out of it yet. But still tons of ground to make up. The Royals are distancing themselves. So even if Kansas City doesn't do anything crazy down the stretch, the more they win now to close out August, the less I think they have to do in September, which is kind of the whole crux of this thing and why they need to treat every game now like it's a playoff game.
Yeah, they're in that mode now where there's not. I mean, they have built enough of a cushion where there is some margin for error, but you don't want to bank on that, and you want to try and stack as many wins as you possibly can. And I think they're going to find a way to be able to do that. I mean, they have a really, really tough stretch coming up, and like we talked about last week, by September 5th, we're going to know whether this team is going to make the playoffs or not. Like it's going to be that first week of September, depending on how they get out of that Cleveland, Houston, Philadelphia, Minnesota stretch. And because of that, we still got some time and we got to learn, but it's going to be a really tough stretch. And part of that stretch too is they have an off day on Thursday before Philly comes to town. They don't have another off day until September 5th. Yeah. So long stretch. That's going to be an absolute grind, and we'll see what these guys are made of.
Yep. Absolutely. And getting healthy, I think, is going to be a big part of how that kind of takes shape the rest of the year. John Schreiber is back from the 15-day IL. He had a right knee patella tendon kind of inflammation, discomfort type deal. Carlos Hernandez back to Omaha. Schreiber did pitch on Monday and had a scoreless inning. We were a little bit shocked, or at least mentioned in the group chat, like, okay, they're going to put him right back out there and say, okay, let's see it. Got that done. Hunter Harvey, when we made the doc for the show earlier on Tuesday, the vibes were a lot different than they are now. The mid-back tightness, JJ Piccolo said he was making progress, could have thrown a bullpen this week, and then I want to say at 5 p.m., and he comes out with a tweet that he suffered a setback and had a cortisone injection, shut down for a few days, might be playing catch by the end of the week. So the timeline for him goes from, okay, maybe he doesn't even need a rehab stint to now the guy's not even going to pick up a baseball for a few days. That's not panic button worthy by any stretch, but considering how the era started for him after the trade, it's not great.
No, it's not great. They're going to need him down the stretch. I know that the early returns were not awesome, but that's someone you can pair with a Lucas Ursig in the back end and feel pretty good about what he needs to be. Because then now we kind of know what Ursig is, like it takes some pressure off of the rest of the bullpen and a guy like Hunter Harvey, where it's like, all right, hey, we just need you to cover the 8th. Can you do that? Or hey, today we need you for the 7th. We don't need you for the 9th. You know, we can give it to Lucas and he can shut it down. But with him out now, you're having to rely on less reliable guys and guys that have shown that they're not reliable enough at the end of games. So they need him back, if nothing else, just for the depth of the bullpen. Hopefully the setback is not as bad as it seems.
Yeah. And keeping it on the topic of bullpen depth, I don't really have any expectations for Dan Altavilla, but he's still on the rehab stint in Omaha. He has 2 scoreless outings in a row. Like, he's making progress to knock on the door of getting back. And like, I think options, especially when the rosters expand to, 28 in September. Like, it's not a lot. It's just
it's 28.
spots. Yeah. So you're not getting a ton of flexibility, but for a Royals team that's like so into the splits, the analytics, and when they're going to deploy different people, gives them another choice, another option. So I think that that's a big deal. And Josh really went all out on his Nuggets this week, and it's almost like he's here with us on the show. He said that when considering home and away record, and this is kind of my last point for the intro here, the opponents in the upcoming gauntlet from August 23rd to I think it's September 11th are rocking a 553 win percentage. Philly on the road above 500, Cleveland at home well above 500. Houston at home has been good. Cleveland on the road has been above 500. Minnesota on the road is above 500, and New York at home is above 500. So Josh highlights just play 500 ball in that stretch, kind of stay in place. Don't go back. Don't necessarily have to go forward. That is pretty daunting because Boston, their percentage in that stretch, the teams they face well below 50. Cleveland's under 50. Seattle's under 50. Minnesota's right at 50. The Royals kind of have a really difficult stretch coming up, and we talk about that, it seems, every week, but it remains relevant. They had a backloaded schedule a little bit, and I think that they're passing the test so far, but a lot of stuff, Joel's still kind of ahead.
Yeah, I think it's as simple as, just play 500 ball. And if you play 500 ball, you're probably around 88 wins. 88 wins should get you into the playoffs. And, then let the chips fall where they may and figure things out. I think that's got to be the goal at this point. Obviously, you want to do better, but at a minimum, I feel like they're going to be able to handle that. It is August 20th. And the Royals still, their longest losing streak this year is 4 games. They find ways to snap those really fast. They don't let the losses pile up. They don't let the game before them, the previous day's game beat them the next day more often than not. So I have a lot of confidence that they're going to find ways to keep themselves in it no matter what, even against these tough teams. I don't think this is going to be where they backslide. I think they're too far in it now. I think they've won too many games together to let that happen. So we shall see, but I have a good amount of confidence of where they are and what they're going to be.
Yeah, no, 100%. And one more quick thing before we hit the break that I forgot Josh told us. I didn't realize Cleveland was just kind of hanging out. They're 12 and 15
they've been pretty bad for a good stretch now.
Yeah, the Royals are they entered Tuesday 2.5 back of the divisions. Like they're right there. It's not just hang on to a wild card spot. It's like if you keep playing good ball, you could win the division. That just adds another layer to how ridiculous this season's been, I think.
Yep. Because I don't think there's any team on pace for 100 wins across Major League Baseball.
I love it personally, but it's
I think the team that has the best on pace are the Phillies and the Yankees on pace for 95. I think that's it. And the Royals are on pace for somewhere between 88 and 90.
Mm-hmm. So imagine being a Yankees fan and hearing that early in the season when they were actually playing really well, but they just entered a slide or whatever.
I think it says a lot about the parity across the sport, but also it's up for anybody's grasp. And that's why
Yeah.
I am just at the point where, like, I don't care what the record is. I don't care what wild card spot they're in, just get in.
Yeah.
Because it's anybody's game. I don't think there's really a definitive favorite anywhere across the sport right now.
Yep, totally agree. You just got to take care of business and get in. We're going to take care of business with a quick break, and then we'll be right back.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
You know, when you discover a new binge-worthy show or a song that you just play on repeat and you have to share it with your friends so they can experience just how awesome it is too, that's kind of what it feels like when you discover Mint Mobile offers premium wireless service for just $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. It's such an awesome deal, there's no way you can keep it to yourself. Friends don't let friends overpay for wireless. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan and switch to Mint Mobile. Mint Mobile is here to rescue you and your friends with premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. And if you're worried about using your own phone and bringing all your contacts, Mint Mobile has you covered, as you can bring your phone number along with all of your existing contacts. So ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSN, the number 1RW. That's mintmobile.com/KCSN1RW. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSN1RW. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
You know, guys, you can take it one step further with Mint Mobile and use the KCSN hotline that is powered by them at 913-407-6524. Again, that's 913-407-6524. Lots of good opportunities to connect with the show host, ask a question, submit mailbag stuff, say that you think that me and Joel are ugly and we should do audio only podcasts. Whatever your kind of tidbit is, that is a perfect way to do that. And Joel, we have 3 guys here. Let's do, you go with your pitcher, I'll do my pitcher, and then I'll let you talk about a hitter that I didn't realize was playing so well since he got over via trade. But let's kick it off with the other guy who got brought in this season.
Yeah, so one of the Royals' deadline moves was bringing in Michael Lorenzen, and he was going to be the back end of the rotation, help solidify things as Alec Marsh had started to regress a little bit, maybe change up his role moving forward. And since coming over to Kansas City, Lorenzen's been pretty solid. He had a really good start against Detroit, and then he had an okay start against St. Louis. It wasn't bad, but it was like a fifth starter type of outing where he gets into the 5th, gives up 3 or 4, but kept the Royals in the game. Great start against Cincinnati on Friday in a ballpark he was very familiar pitching in. And the inspiration for talking about Lorenzen here was a tweet I saw from Lance Brzdowski, who is a player development analyst for Watch Marquee, former Driveline employee. He looks into a lot of like the pitch data, analytics usage, and all that sort of stuff. It's really interesting. He's a great follow if you're into like nerdy pitching stuff. He noticed Michael Lorenzen since joining the Royals versus right-hand hitters. His sweeper percentage is up from 2% to 15%. So he's throwing it a lot more. And that pitch has a 132 stuff plus. So it's 32% better than league average. It's like, hey, maybe you should throw that more. And he is. And his changeup percentage is up from 12% to 20%. Fastball usage from 60% down to 44%, which has then allowed his swinging strike rate to double from 6% to 12% against righties. So, I mean, those are some drastic changes that he made in a couple weeks. So, and credit to him for listening to what Brian Sweeney, Zach Bove had to say. And clearly they found something and it works. And then this was another interesting thing, the 2 versus lefties, who he's kind of gotten hammered by this year. 2-strike fastball percentage. He was throwing 54% fastballs in 2-strike counts to lefties, which is just odd to me.
Insane. Yeah.
Like, I didn't like, and even he said, like, that is perplexing. He's throwing 2-strike fastballs to lefties 32% now. So I think what the crux of this is, his fastball's not been awesome this year. It's like his four seam has been good. The sinker's what's gotten him in trouble. So I think it's okay. Let's bring those down a little bit, be a little more selective. His breaking stuff, his changeup and his slider, and those have been much better. So it's okay. Let's throw those more, working the fastball, almost working backwards in a sense when it comes to throwing your off speed and then letting the fastball play off it. Kind of like what Seth Lugo does at times, letting, lull you to sleep with some changeups and sliders and slurs. Okay. And then here's 93. That's kind of what Michael Lorenzen has to work with, and that's what he's doing. So I found his game log for the start on Friday. It was he threw 6 different pitches, and it was a very Seth Lugo type distribution. He threw 27 four seams, 15 sinkers, so 33%, a third of his pitches were fastballs and not close to 60%, which is what he was doing with Texas. And then the 13% curveball, 11% sweeper changeup, and then a cutter. So he's varying his mix a lot more now that he's here in Kansas City. He had a 46% called strike whiff percentage on his curveball. He had a 33% called strike whiff percentage on his fastball, on his four seam. So he got 7 called strikes on the four seam, which is that's a pretty hard number to get in the big leagues. So this is not to say that he has all of a sudden turned into something elite or anything like that, but it seems like the Royals have tapped into something and have just squeezing every bit of value and potential that Michael Lorenzen still has as an established big leaguer. And a massive credit to Brian Sweeney, Zach Bove, for recognizing this after a couple outings and allowing him just, hey, go do these 2 things and we'll see what happens. And immediately he starts having more success. So he's someone to watch down the stretch. He has solidified that rotation. I feel pretty comfortable every day that the Royals are sending somebody out. I feel confident they can get a win because everything is just working right now.
I think a lot of what you said in the past 30 seconds about maximizing the value, establishing yourself, being the getting the most out of a pitcher when your stuff isn't absolutely dominant or elite. Chris Bubich is kind of the embodiment of that right now. And I know it's kind of odd timing because he did have the hold on Monday, but he did give up a run, but still 2.51 ERA, 1.92 expected ERA, and 14 and a third innings pitched coming into Tuesday. I'm going to do like a repertoire breakdown, and then I'm going to do like an everything else stat ranking, all that shit breakdown. The fastball, he's throwing 46% of the time. Velo is up from 91.7 miles an hour last year, and we were like, okay, well, that's something, to 93.3 this year, coming off of Tommy John surgery. So that's ticking up. He's added 200 RPMs of spin. He's getting 11% more vertical movement than average. The kicker here, 51% less horizontal movement on that four-seamer. Last year it was minus 17. So he's like really fine-tuned how he's getting that pitch to move. I'm throwing it a lot more evenly to lefties and righties. Opponents are hitting 211 against it. Joel, guess the whiff rate on Chris Bubich's four-seam fastball right now.
So I have his Savant page pulled up. So
shit. Okay.
Yeah, 40.4% whiff rate on the fastball is kind of nuts. The crazy thing, too, for me is his fastballs jump like 200 RPMs. So I'd love to know, and I'm going to, hopefully, I believe I'm going to try and be at the game on Saturday.
Sick.
So if I can talk to Bubich, I'd love to know like what he learned or figured out, if he just like went pitch designed something in his rehab to make his fastball more efficient. I'll be interested in that.
Yep. The stuff plus for him is up from 72 in 22 to 85 last year in a limited sample, 99 this year. So the fastball still isn't anything crazy, but the combination of the RPMs ticking up, the movement being fine-tuned, the velo being up, all of that, the small sample probably contributing to that, is helping. The slider, he's more than doubled his usage. Like he's really doubled down, so to speak, on that pitch, 35% usage, nearly 50-50 split lefties to righties. It doesn't matter where you're lining up. He's going to throw it to you anyway. He's added 550 RPMs to that from last year to this year. So you talk about pitch design. The slider is just completely revamped. 16% more vertical movement than average. That's up 12% year over year. 91% more horizontal movement than average. That's up 73% if my math is correct. Since last season, the stuff plus on that pitch from 85 to 111. So if you're looking for a reason he's thriving right now, it's the slider being A, thrown more often, and B, just being a straight up better pitch. Then he also has to change up. He's throwing that about 50% of the time. That's down 10% from last year. Still almost exclusively to the right-handed hitters. They're hitting 100 against it, 50% whiff rate. That pitch just kind of is what it is. So ranks among Royals relievers this season with 10 or more innings pitched. And Lucas Erceg would kind of change the math here, but he's at 9.1. So if I have an opportunity to have selective endpoints or push an agenda or anything, I'm going to do it. So Chris Bubich, first in ERA, first in FIP, first in strikeout percentage, second lowest walk rate, first in ground ball rate, career highs in batting average against, whip, barrel rate, hard hit rate, out of the zone swing percentage, in the zone swing percentage, called and strike, swing and strike rate 32.8. Very long road to a short path here. The fastball has more life to it. It's a legitimate offering this season. Even if it's league average, that's a massive improvement for him. Going all in on the rebuilt slider has been a big deal. Ditching the curveball and replacing it with the changeup and the slider has been big. The sample size is key. I don't think that Chris Bubich needs to be a closer. I don't think Chris Bubich needs to be the eighth inning guy. He doesn't even necessarily have to have a slotted role as a seventh inning guy. But man, he's just been really solid since he got back. And there are tangible reasons why he's having success. And I'd like to see, long term through the rest of the year, beginning of next season, what evolution he has and how that takes shape. There's a world where the fastball just doesn't get by people as much anymore and they catch on to it and his numbers come down. But man, Joel, I'm really impressed. And I didn't know that he was faring so well until I kind of dove into the numbers and said, okay, there's kind of legit reasons why.
Yeah, he's been really impressive since he's come back. I know that I kind of tweeted a little tongue in cheek last night, like, hey, maybe don't throw 94 right down the middle to start an inning. But then he settled down after that and punched out the next three guys. So okay, he figured it out and got right back into it. But the revamped stuff is what's intriguing to me. And he's a Stanford guy, so he's smart. That he's not going to sit back and rest. He's always going to try and tinker and figure stuff out. And it seems like he's always kind of been that. Like he's always been tinkering with something.
Yes.
And I think some of it is, I think this is the maximum or the best outcome role for Chris Bubich.
Sure.
They've tried him as a starter. I don't think it's there. The fastball is just not good enough over 6 innings to be viable. But in 1 inning bursts, when he's able to let it rip a little more, the fastball plays a little bit better. And it's got that kind of the funky delivery with a couple different breaking balls. He can tunnel off the fastball because everything comes out of a similar slot, despite the kind of herky-jerky looking delivery. It makes me think he could be a very good reliever, which is a good outcome. And even if they want to move him to the middle innings and be a long relief guy or let him take the bulk innings on a bullpen day or something, sure, that's fine. But I think kind of getting him into a solid bullpen spot, I think would be very good moving forward because there's going to be a lot of flux after this year, I think, with the lack of success in some areas with the bullpen. We know Erceg's going to be there. For now, Hunter Harvey's going to be there because he's going to be back next year. Zerpa probably. And after that, and then MacArthur possibly, that's about it. There are 3 names I'm putting in Sharpie, and at the rest, I'm I don't know, we'll figure it out. I think Bubich could be someone you could put in Sharpie and feel very good about at least the start of a good bullpen for next year.
Yep. Totally agree.
All right, let's go and talk about one of the other acquisitions here, Paul DeJong. I didn't even realize how good he had been. I felt you watch enough games and you look at some of the data and you're I feel like he's been pretty solid here for a decent stretch since going to Kansas City, and the numbers flesh that out. Now, it's an incredibly small sample. It's 43 plate appearances, but it's a 316, 372, 605 slash with a 164 weighted runs created plus. Now, that is not including tonight, but it's where we're at. Now, the ISO 289, so he's getting a lot of extra base hits. The strikeout rate's about what it was in Chicago, is about 30%. A 9% walk rate, to me, is what's fascinating. Now, again, it's an incredibly small sample, but he was walking less than 4% coming to Kansas City. So being a little more selective, he's hit 3 homers since coming over. He plays a solid third base. It's not as good as Michael Garcia, but it's passable. I don't see a reason why he shouldn't be in the lineup every day at this point. I am totally on board with Paul DeJong being the everyday third baseman because of Michael Garcia's lack of consistency. At least I kind of know what I'm going to get from Paul DeJong day in, day out. And then maybe you can platoon Massey and Garcia, lefty righty, and you deploy Michael a little more situationally.
Sure.
Maybe like a defensive replacement late in games at the corner or whatever it is. And Paul DeJong can be a guy that can hit 6th or 7th in your lineup and still provide some power. He's going to provide some extra base hits and play a solid enough third base.
And playoff experience. I mean,
and
like
a little bit of playoff experience. Yeah,
yeah,
it matters. And he puts together solid at bats for the most part. Sure, he's going to punch out, but he's always punched out. Like that's just kind of comes with the territory. But like I've talked about before, like I don't worry about strikeout rate a ton if you do damage when you make contact, and that's what he's been doing. So I'm willing to have that balance and it be okay. And especially if he's going to walk at a fairly decent clip too, like that means he's getting on base, providing value. I also think part of it too, and it was something we talked about when he came over, like getting out of Chicago, I'm sure did a number on him. I'm sure it made a massive difference coming over to that clubhouse. And he seems to have ingratiated himself really well quickly and talked about how much he loves being here and being a part of something and trying to chase this down. And he's really taken that to heart. So it seems like he fits in the clubhouse really well. I know that the lefty-righty splits are weird because he's got reverse platoon, but I'd still let him hit against lefties unless it becomes an abject disaster. But in that case, Michael is solid enough against lefties. It's probably going to be fine. And you can pinch hit DeJong late in the game against a righty because, he's got a little more power there. So it gives the team more options, but I would prefer, I think DeJong is somebody that the Royals should consider having in the lineup every day.
And you can kind of squint and see like a formidable playoff type lineup with obviously the big three: Witt, Perez, Pasquantino. Hunter Renfroe has been terrible in the month of August, very quietly, like almost unplayable after a really, really good June and July. So we'll see what happens there. But Massey has bounced back in the month of August. DeJong has helped. Garcia, you never know. So like Melendez is quietly, or I guess not so quietly, people have been talking about him more lately. But it's kind of the same thing we've been talking about all year. For a couple weeks, the Royals are like, okay, we have a guy that's 6, 7, or 8 that can help lengthen the lineup and provide some pop or get on base. And then for a couple weeks, we're like, okay, they don't have anything outside of 3 guys. So I feel a little bit more confident, and I think it's the 4 or 5 wins in a row that are probably doing most of that talking. They could easily have a week and a half stretch where the offense is terrible. But I do agree that the DeJong trade that at first I didn't think was going to be anything has now turned into you could see this guy kind of helping the team. Now, I did want to bring up, Nate said thoughts on Hector Neris. Didn't we talk about him in our group chat? I like the fastball, and that's about it.
Chat. Yeah, like
he can't control anything.
It's almost you're getting a clone of Chris Stratton. Like it's almost exactly the same, and Chris Stratton doesn't get hit near as hard. Like that's the
I'm pulling up the Savant pages.
That's like like it's almost exactly the same. Like not a ton of strikeouts. Not a lot of walks. I would rather just stick with what we have. I don't think it's even a change of scenery type of scenario. Yeah. I know that people just want to be like, hey, any warm body, just come and play. I just don't think that is a viable path.
Well, and if you're getting the 2022 or 2023 version and the Royals can, untap something totally different conversation. If you're getting 2024, then you're like, okay, we can afford to pass. So definitely interesting. Meanwhile, the Royals are losing by multiple runs. Guys, the curse might be real. I don't know if we're gonna have to
I
take
think
one for the team and
just
not go live anymore or what.
we might need to not go live next week just to see what happens. And
Yeah.
just like so we know for sure.
Yeah.
Because like
Yep.
if we record just our normal 8 p.m. start time, but we
Uh-huh.
don't go live and they win, then we'll know that it's our fault.
Yep. The Royals, that's a perfect segue into the upcoming games. They wrap up the Angels series on Wednesday, got 3 against Philadelphia, doubleheader against Cleveland on, I believe that's Monday with Reagans and TBD as the starters, and then finishing up Cleveland by the time we jump back in to record. So, man, we're going to have quite a bit to talk about next week too. It's like there aren't many weeks on the schedule left where like, oh, the Royals should, beat the crap out of this bad team, then they don't have any game of significance. Like almost every week or 5-game stretch, whatever you want to call it, they have something pretty big coming up in all of
Yeah.
those.
I mean, every game is big at this point. Every
Yeah.
single game.
Yep. We're fading people in our bets this week. Josh even dropped one. He has Brady Singer less than 5 innings pitched against Philly on Saturday. I have Michael Lorenzen to just straight up take the L against the Angels on Wednesday. His ERA in his career is over 5 against them. It's over 5 this season. Don't have great feelings about that. He has been pitching well as of late, like Joel said. So might be one of those situations where you might just be due for something. Joel, do you have a specific bet in mind?
Not necessarily, but I can just off the rip. I'll go the other direction. I think that because just with the way tonight is trending, I think they'll really bounce back tomorrow and win. And then
Okay.
it's similar thinking to this. Michael Lorenzen faces former team in the Reds
Sure.
and shoved against him. So I'm just going to take that same bump in a home start and think he gets the better of the Angels.
I dig it. All right, let's talk minor leagues. We actually have a little bit of time this week to do so. We usually have, 50 minutes into the podcast say, "Oh yeah, the minor leagues are a thing. They're playing baseball. They have, players there." And then we we get that out of here. Chris, yes, the live show curse absolutely in effect. For those who
we know
are just jumping in, 2-8 this year in games with 1 postponement, including a 6-game losing streak. So no matter how you slice it, the curse is real. No curse in Omaha, 25-20 in the second half of the season. Carlos Hernandez back down there is the only transaction I found as of Monday night. Joel, talk about Noah Cameron.
He has been awesome since getting promoted to AAA. I think it was last month. 25 and a third in 4 innings and 4 starts. He has 30 strikeouts to 4 walks, only 3 earned runs given up, a 1.07 ERA, sub 1 WHIP. I don't know what to think of him because I know the fastball is very Frank Mazzucato-y, but it feels like there's a much better feel to pitch to me. I mean, clearly because he doesn't walk a ton of guys, that makes you think it's going to work in some capacity, even if the fastball is like 92 at best. I don't think there's a scenario where he gets to the big leagues this year unless there's an injury. But I think that this could be a guy that could work his way to the big leagues next year because of his field of pitch and the ability to get strikeouts with the stuff that he has and like maximizing his profile. I think there is a big league pitcher in there. I'm just not sure to what degree, because I don't even think a move to the bullpen like ticks up the fastball a ton.
Yeah.
Like maybe a little, but not enough to where it's like, oh, there's more in the tank to where he can pop a 5, like a 95 or something like that. I don't think there's that. So I think it's awesome what he's been doing. But I'm not going to bank on it at this point.
Yep. Another guy I wouldn't necessarily bank on, but did provide really good value early in the season for the big league club. Alec Marsh. Josh brought to our attention that in 3 starts in Omaha, 10 innings, 2 earned runs, a strikeout rate over 33%. Over 36%. Walkout rate well under 10, a whip of 0.8, 3.41 FIP, 33.3 whiff percentage. The barrel rate's good. The exit velocity is good. The expected slash, Joel, for him in those 3 starts, 162, 255, 281. So doesn't take a math genius to imply and conclude that Alec Marsh has been really good in AAA Omaha. And I think that, again, options are the theme of this season, it seems, and really the Q era in Kansas City, maximizing what you have and minimizing what you don't. And
Yeah.
Alec Marsh gives them another choice if someone gets hurt or they need a spot start or, something like that the rest of the way.
Yeah, he's been. I mean, he's too good for AAA. Like, and I think he
Sure.
showed like he's solid enough at the big league level that, sending him down there was really just to like work on his mix and figure
Yeah.
out a new role for him as like a multi-inning relief type, more than likely. So I can only take so much away from that, but it is good that he has gone down there and done what he's supposed to do.
Yeah. Your weekly Carter Jensen update for AA Northwest Arkansas. We've kind of been slacking on that front as of late, but the number 5 prospect in pipeline for the Royals, speaking, not nationwide, league-wide, 197, 286, 408 slash, good for a 91 WRC plus in 20 games with the Naturals. Walk rate of 11%, strikeout rate of 26, so it's up a pretty decent amount. Last 10 games, 508 OPS, 139 batting average, 33 WRC plus. So I don't have many good things to say about Carter Jensen for the first time in a while. 4 home runs in 84 plate appearances is nice. He has a 208 BABIP in AA, so that luck should ideally turn around. But it's early. I'm not worried at all. But no positive Carter Jensen update this week, Joel.
Yeah, but I mean, the jump from high A to AA is the biggest jump in.
He'll be fine
in the minors. He'll be fine. It just this is what it is. He'll repeat AA next year, and I'm sure he'll kill it.
Yep.
I'm here with your Gavin Cross update. So this is an arbitrary endpoint, but just speaks to maybe his approach and where he's kind of trending. Since July 26th, slashing 225, 326, 513. Now, I know the batting average is what it is. It's part of the story, not the whole story. The 513 slug is what intrigues me here. 127 WRC plus. He has 7 homers in these 80 plate appearances, 17 RBIs, a couple doubles, 10 stolen bases. He has 30 stolen bases this year, and he hasn't been caught. In these, at least in the 10 stolen bases since the beginning of the year. I'm curious how many times he's been caught overall this year. If I can find that, I will. But either way, he's tapping into a little more power. He's getting it figured out. I know that people were kind of clamoring for him to get to Omaha. I was one of those people.
Yep.
But based on how poorly last year went, I'm not in a rush for them to get there, for them to send him there just for the sake of it. Like, let him just work here in a more prospect-laden league and then go to the fall league maybe in the fall, and then get ready for next year and then just sit in AAA until we need you in the big leagues. Because I do think he's going to end up as a right fielder for the Royals sooner rather than later.
Shane Panzini back in Quad Cities, activated from the 60-day IL, a name that we haven't mentioned in a while. The River Bandits are 25 and 23 in the second half with a plus 14 run differential. I've got Ryan Ramsey, who is not in the pipeline rankings, but has been playing like a player who should be. 2.3 ERA in 19 games. That's 8 starts this year. 82 strikeouts, 26 walks in 74 innings. Since the beginning of July, 5 of his 7 games have been starts. 1.36 ERA in 33 innings, 37 strikeouts to 8 walks, a 183 opponent average. So Ryan Ramsey not going to get mentioned too many times on this show because there's just so many prospects that have higher name value, I suppose, or other stretches of performances. But man, he's been carving it up in high A for a while now. So shout out to him.
I want to give a huge shout out to Spencer Nivens, a guy that I was really high on coming into the year.
Yep.
I thought he could, kind of pop in a big way. And the fact that he wasn't on the top 30 to begin the year, he is now kind of on the back end, was objectively bad to begin the year. And then he got hurt. But over the last month or so, he's been on an absolute tear. Since July, I think I have July 5th or July 3rd. My apologies, July 3rd. Slashing 275, 340, 549. He has 12 home runs in that stretch. And that's good for a 147 WRC plus. Now he's a dude that's going to strike out a bunch. I think that's just kind of a part of who he is. And he didn't walk a lot. Now he's walking at 8.8 now, so it's a little bit more than he was. If he can walk a little more, then the profile gets even more intriguing. But then I look tonight, and those stats were not including tonight. Tonight he had 2 home runs, including a grand slam. So he has 14 home runs on the year and 12 home runs since July 3rd. So he's on an absolute tear and someone to definitely watch out for if he keeps rolling like this.
Blake Mitchell has been kind of on a tear all season, and specifically as of late, 848 OPS, 148 WRC plus in Columbia, 16.5% walk rate, 30% strikeout rate. Those numbers down and up respectively in the month of August, but a 592 slugging percentage for him, 5 home runs, 12 RBIs in 13 games in August, 165 WRC plus. I think he had another home run on Tuesday, right before or right as we hopped on this show. Don't quote me on that. But Blake Mitchell, man, number 2 in Pipeline's rankings for Kansas City, continues to play well for a Columbia team that's kind of turned things around. They're 6 games above 500 in the second half, and he's a pretty big reason why. You're muted, buddy. Gotta love that. We rarely do that.
I've been coughing all night, so I've been trying to hit my mute button to make sure that I don't bother anybody. But
you're a trooper, man.
Unmute myself. By the way, I know we talked about Ryan Ramsey. Ethan Bosacker had starts 7 innings, 12 punches too.
It feels like we mention him every week. He just keeps.
He's really good. Yeah, like he's someone to watch out for next year for sure.
Yep.
Jonathan Bernal had a really good start. I believe he was Carolina League pitcher of the week this past week. 7 innings, no runs, 6 strikeouts. Someone to keep an eye on there. I'm gonna get his full season stats up for those that would like to know. Give me just a moment here. I apologize. This is what happens when you do live lookups.
They're the best. I love doing that.
To be fair, he is a little bit older for the level. He's 22.
Yes.
Coming over because he was in the complex for a bit. But a 3.79 ERA, 30 strikeouts, and 35 and a third. Not exactly sure what he is, but a good start this week, and just wanted to give him a shout because I don't think we've talked about him on the show yet.
Yep, 100%. Do you have a toast game for the big league club? I've got one. If you don't, that can cover the both of us.
I do have one, and it's for Vinny Pasquantino.
God purely damn it, Joel, that's mine.
The home run on
so
Friday
it is covering both of us.
Was sick. They intentionally walk Bobby to get to Vinny. Vinny hits an absolute nuke and then just turns around and just goes, let's go, and flips the bat. Like, I thought it was awesome.
He has a 913 OPS and a 146 WRC plus in August. Since the last time we recorded, 8 hits, 8 RBIs. His ranks in big league ball 4th in RBIs this season. He is hitting 373 with runners in scoring position in 2024. So people bring up, he's not the most consistent this year. You're not getting the premium power production, all that crap. Since the calendar flipped, like this second half of the year, he's been awesome. He has been clutch when the Royals have needed it. He's been everything I think this team needs for the latter part of the year. And you can say that he started off not too well and he missed some time last year with the shoulder. Obviously hasn't been the most durable, but man, he deserves a toast game for one heck of a stretch.
Yeah, he's been awesome for this team. He's going to get to 100 RBIs and over 20 home runs, which is exactly what you want out of your first baseman. Like it's been kind of a weird path to that point, but he's exactly what the Royals have wanted him to be.
Yep. All right, man. We're going to get out of here so Joel can feel better and Josh can cheer on the Royals live. And we can't conclude if the curse is real or not for the end of the night. So the Royals are 5-2 as we're logging off here. If you want to chat about the curse or anything else, you can do so on the KCSN hotline powered by Mint Mobile, 913-407-6524. Again, 913-407-6524. Joel, thanks for jumping on. Nick Springer behind the scenes, thank you for producing and doing one heck of a job. We will be back a week from now. We're going to have Josh. It's going to be great. So until then, take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you then.
See y'all.